Greetings, Commanders. I'm Commander Chipson, and today I want to show you a little bit of the combat in 2.1 and what you might be able to expect from some higher ranked AI. Now, to do this demonstration, you can see I'm flying the Diamondback Scout. I'm using two small burst lasers that are fixed and two medium multi-cannons that are gimbaled. Alright, so our first ship here you can see is an Elite Fertile Lance. Now, a couple things to note about elite ships now with the 2.1. They are going to be spamming chaff every 10 seconds. So you're going to have a 10-second window between chaff if you're going to be using gimbaled weapons. So either you can set maybe some kind of timer or just keep that in mind, count in your head, so you know when you can start using gimbaled again. But keep in mind they will spam chaff. And you've got a 10-second window between chaff. Now, the one thing that we didn't see here with this Fertile Lance that we might have seen on some other ships is SCB usage. They usually like to spam SCBs as well, but it doesn't look like this Fertile Lance had one, or he didn't get it off in time while he was being attacked. Now, for this example, I am in a high-res, high-intensity resource extraction site. I'm not in a has-res, because right now the has-res is maybe a bit OP. I'd like to get some official verification from Frontier Developments on whether or not has-res AI is tweaked up a notch, but to me it definitely feels that way. So right now we're in a high-res. We still have the high-ranked enemies, but we do have a little bit of security to help. Alright, so it looks like our Fertile Lance here is just about done. As you can see, we didn't use a whole lot of gimbaled weapons because of the constant chaff, so we pretty much had to focus on these small burst lasers that are fixed. Alright, so for our next fight, we're going after an ASP Scout. Now, this is also elite ranked, and we're about to see maybe how the AI is kind of tweaked depending on what type of ship as well. As you can see, the ASP Scout is elite ranked, but it's not popping chaff like the other elite ship did. So I think the combat ability is also depending on the type of vessel. And as you can see here, the ASP Scout really didn't stand too much of a chance, even though he was elite ranked. For our third fight, we're going after a master rated Python. You can see his shield's already down, and what happened is he was flying backwards, and he flew backwards into that ice chunk. So there's still some AI quirks out there where they like to fly backwards and for no apparent reason just run into things sometimes. Now once you shoot them, they do kind of wake up from their stupor, and they don't really act stupid after that. So this is pretty much just a waiting mechanic or something, I'm not sure. Alright, so you can see the Python launch chaff immediately even though I was using fixed weapons. That was supposed to have changed with the latest update, I believe, Beta4, but it looks like they're still doing a launching chaff when you're just using fixed. And you can see we had our 10-second window and they're popping chaff again. And this is another reason why I think the A might change depending on the ship, because the Fertile Lance and the Python are both basically in the same class, even though one is like a heavy freighter and the other one is a fighter. They're still kind of in the same class. Alright, so you can see they pop chaff again, even though I'm not firing at all. So they are on some kind of timer, so that's something to keep in mind. Alright, since chaff is popping, we're still relying on these small burst lasers. Now, I chose burst lasers because they do extra damage against hull. Pulse lasers are definitely more energy efficient, but the burst lasers are better against direct hull. And with so much chaff being popped with the new AI, it's sometimes best to go with a burst laser if your ship is well equipped for it. Now we can see here the power plant is gone on the Python, so it is pretty much out of the fight. We're just kind of chewing through its hull here a little bit until the power plant ruptures. So you can see pretty much the same flight mechanic as the Fertile Lance, popping chaff with the 10-second window and getting your gimbal. And it's just going to be constant chaff, guys, so make sure you have some kind of fixed weapons. Alright, for our next fight here, we're going after a deadly rated Vulture. Of course, the Vulture here is a very quick and maneuverable ship, so you really have to be careful when you're engaged in one of these. Now, if you're listening to the computer at all, or watching the right-hand screen here, you can see my flight assist is going on and off, and that's so I can get quick turns on ships like the Vulture. This is going to be an absolute necessity now, flight assist off. So if you're not comfortable with flight assist off, I recommend getting out there and practicing. Alright, so you can see another odd thing here with the Vulture, just popped an SCB. That's not something you usually see with Vultures since they're so energy starved, but this one did it. Alright, so the shields are down now on the Vulture, so now he's going to be relying just on chaff as defense. But the Vulture's hull's going down here pretty quick, and we're getting a nice little window here to use the multi-cannons on the Vulture. Now another thing to keep in mind, you can see there's actually a lot of shooting going right now. It looks like I have some backup, and that's because I'm in a high intensity res, and there's still security vessels. So I recommend going to a high res to cut your chops in 2.1 so you can kind of get a handle on things, not get too overwhelmed, because security will come in and give you backup during most of your fights, as long as you're not too far out away from the center of the resource extraction site. Alright, so the Vulture's down, but not without a fight. If I didn't have backup, that would have taken a lot longer. Alright, so our next ship here is the Elite Dropship, and you can see it's roughly in the same class as the FDL and Python, so you can see it's popping chaff immediately, even though I'm only using fixed weapons, and we'll see that it's going to have the same kind of timer on the chaff. Pops chaff, you get a 10-second window, and then it's going to pop chaff again, and now you can see even this one is doing an SCB with chaff. So really, just keep in mind, if you're going after high-ranking ship like Elite, and it's like a medium-class vessel, watch out. They are going to be popping chaff and spamming SCBs. And you can see the dropship here is trying to get behind us. It's going to turn into a pitch battle. So I hope you have a very maneuverable ship, because you're going to have to stay towards the back end of their vessel, since you're going to be using fixed weapons. Now you can tell the dropship here just by the way it's flying. It's got a lot of fixed weapons, and that's why it's getting stuck in this maneuver of trying to pitch around into your rear, because it's not using its gimbaled or turreted weapons. But you do have to watch out for the dropship, because the dropship is known to use fixed weapons and turreted weapons. So sometimes they'll use fix on the front, and then when they can't get a fix on you, they fire off with the turret. So if you have chaff, make sure you activate your chaff when they activate their turrets. Now you can tell with this new AI, SCBs are used a lot more than they used to be in 2.0 and prior. So if you have a ship like mine, like the Diamondback Scout, that doesn't have a high DPS, you're going to have a little bit of a problem with some of these ships where it just takes a long time to get through those shields because they're going to be popping so many SCBs. And as you can see, he's not taking a break with the chaff either, so they are on a chaff counter. So because it's a counter, this is kind of good and bad for us. It's bad because we know that they're going to be using chaff all the time, and it's just going to be a rhythm no matter what you're actually firing with. But the good is we know that it's a rhythm, we know that it's an algorithm, so we know that we're going to have a 10-second window between chaff, and we know that we're going to have some kind of fixed weapons to go against these ships. Now you can use gimbals and turreted weapons, but you have to make sure and on-select the target, so the weapons go kind of in free fire mode. That can be kind of a pain in the butt if you're trying to target, say, the power plant, because then you have to retarget the power plant each time, but that's just going to be the way it has to be if you're going to be using gimbaled weapons. Now, if you've been keeping an eye on the radar, you can see the security vessels have now come in, and they're going to start to engage the dropship as well. This is definitely going to help out with your TTK if you're going to start doing a lot of hunting in the high res, which I would recommend now, unless you're in a wing of your own, then you can probably get away fine in a Haz res. It looks like for now the Haz res might not be for solo players anymore, unless maybe you've got, say, a Federal Corvette. The Federal Corvette can still kind of hold its own inside of a hazardous RES right now. Alright, so you can see the dropship shields did come back up for a second, but it didn't have time to fire off an SCB, and now that all the security vessels are involved, it's having a much harder problem dealing with everybody. And it's really just crazy that the dropship's lasted this long. The dropship, isn't a great ship per se, but it really held its own. So the AI is very strong, you guys. Don't discount the AI. For our next ship, we're going up against another Fertile Lance, but this time it's Expert, so it's going to be interesting to see what kind of characteristics it uses, because it is a Fertile Lance, but it is only Expert rated, which isn't terribly high. So the first thing we notice is it's not spamming chaff like the higher ranked Fertile Lances do. So it doesn't look like you have to rely completely on fixed weapons if you're looking at an Expert level Fertile Lance. Yeah, Expert is very middle of the road, so you can probably solo an Expert no problem if you're using gimbaled weapons. So if you're trying to go for gimbaled only, yeah, definitely check out Expert and below. You shouldn't have too much problem engaging with them. Now, if you want to fight exclusively with gimbaled weapons, you might want to look at perhaps a low-intensity RES, or even just a regular RES, and you're going to see more low to mid-level combat ranking for the AI. Alright, so you can see the security vessels have come in to help out, so the Fertile Lance isn't going to last much longer, especially since it's not popping chaff on its regular time schedule. So we can open up with the multi-cannons. With the medium multi-cannons, against the medium hull, it's doing full damage. And now finally, with our last ship, we're looking at a master-rated Imperial Clipper. Now the Imperial Clipper can be very, very slippery. Their pitch rate, of course, is very, very high. So if it's using any kind of fixed weapons, it's going to get stuck in a loop of trying to get around you. So if you're using a very maneuverable ship like the Downbite Scout, you should be okay, but be prepared to get into this pitch battle, because it will just be trying to pitch to get behind you. Now the one thing that surprised me about this fight is he's not going on a chaff algorithm like the other ships did. Now this is Master Rake, which is a little bit on the higher side. It's still very middling, but it's definitely on the higher side of the middle spectrum, and it's not popping out chaff. So why am I not firing multi-cannons right now to take advantage of this? That's mostly due to the fault of the controls I'm using. I'm using my X55, and my vertical thrusters are on the joystick, and I have to use my thumb to use them, so I can't get to my secondary triggers to actually fire the multi-cannons when I'm stuck in a pitch battle like that. So I'm definitely going to have to do a little bit of a remapping here with my controls so I can use my secondary fire while I'm still in a pitch battle. And speaking of pitch battles, I was fighting I believe it was a dangerous rated Anaconda, and we were stuck in a pitch battle for a good 5 minutes at least. All I could fire was my small fixed weapons, and he couldn't fire it at all because for some reason the Anaconda was using all fixed weapons. So we got stuck in a crazy pitch battle that lasted about 15 minutes until he got down to 16% hull, and then he ran away and did a high wake, and I couldn't go after him. So guys, be prepared for these crazy pitch battles that we're going to be seeing from now on. Alright, so this Clipper is just about gone, so I want to do a quick summary real quick. You are going to need to use some fixed weapons, just because if you're going after some of these higher range ships, they are going to be spamming chaff, and your gimbaled weapons are going to be pretty much useless. You're only going to have that 10-second window between chaff pop-off to actually use your gimbaled weapons. So make sure you equip fix, and if you're flying solo, I recommend going to a high-res first, so you can kind of get used to the new AI, because it can be a bit brutal. Now in this video, my Diamondback Scout was 100% stock, so I was not using any kind of engineers mods. So as you can see, it can be done, but it's definitely going to be a more brutal fight against these improved AI. Alright commanders, I hope this has been helpful for you to get you prepared for the new combat in 2.1, and please stand by for more Elite Dangerous videos and some other space games that I'm going to be playing. Alright commanders, I'll see you all in the black. Thanks for watching, and let me know what you thought in the comments. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to see all of my latest videos.